The Galactic Council thought humanity was bluffing until we shattered their peace. Part 1. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any stadium on Earth. Thousands of alien beings filled the seats that curved upward like a massive bowl. Their voices created a strange symphony of clicks, hums, and musical tones that echoed off the crystal walls. At the center of it all stood Captain Ji-won Kim, alone on a small platform that hovered above the polished floor. Ji-won wore her dress uniform, the dark blue fabric crisp and clean. Her medals caught the light from the chamber's artificial suns. She had fought in 3 wars before humanity ever left Earth's solar system. She had negotiated peace treaties with Mars colonies and resource agreements with the Belt miners. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. High Chancellor Morduin rose from his throne. The ancient reptilian creature stood 3 meters tall, his scales gleaming like polished emeralds. His eyes, cold and yellow, fixed on Ji-won with barely concealed contempt. When he spoke, translators built into the chamber converted his hissing speech into words everyone could understand. "Human," Morduin began, his voice dripping with condescension. "Your species has been granted the honor of petitioning for membership in our council. We have reviewed your pathetic fleet of ships. We have examined your primitive technology. We have studied your violent and war-torn history." Ji-won kept her face neutral, though her jaw tightened slightly. Around the chamber, thousands of alien eyes watched her. Some looked curious. Most looked bored or amused. Morduin continued, spreading his clawed hands wide. "The Galactic Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. We have done this through strength, through unity, and through the contributions of all member species. Earth wishes to join this great civilization. We welcome this. But membership requires sacrifice. Here it comes," Ji-won thought. She had suspected this meeting would not be simple diplomacy. Earth will contribute 70% of its mineral resources to the Council's treasury, Morduin announced. This includes metals, rare elements, and energy sources. Additionally, Earth will provide unrestricted access to its genetic database and biological samples. Your military will be reduced to ceremonial forces only. Council peacekeepers will maintain order in your system. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some aliens chittered with approval. Others remained silent, watching. Ji-won took a breath. 70% of our resources? That would cripple our economy. Our people would starve. Counselor Vexithara, an avian creature with brilliant purple feathers, let out a sound that might have been laughter. "Your people are irrelevant. Your world is small. Your species young. You should be grateful we offer membership at all rather than simply taking what we need." "That sounds like extortion, not diplomacy," Ji-won said calmly. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some seemed offended by her words. Others appeared merely entertained by the audacity. Morduin raised one clawed hand and silence fell instantly. "You misunderstand your position, human. We are offering you a choice. Accept our terms or Earth remains isolated. No trade routes. No access to our technology. No protection from the dangers that lurk in dark space. Your small fleet would be alone against pirates, against predators, against things your primitive sensors cannot even detect." Dr. Minji Lee stood beside Admiral Hyunwoo Park in the observation gallery above the main chamber. They watched the proceedings through a transparent barrier. Minji's hands gripped the railing tightly. "They're threatening us," she whispered. "This entire thing is a shakedown." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. The Admiral's weathered face remained calm, but his eyes were hard. "They think we're weak. They see our declared fleet numbers and assume that's all we have. Should we tell them the truth?" "Not yet. Let's see how this plays out." Below, Ji-won squared her shoulders. "High Chancellor, I need to consult with my government before accepting such terms. This decision affects billions of people." Morduin's tail swished behind him, a gesture that conveyed impatience. "Very well. You have 3 months. Return to your little blue world. Discuss with your leaders, but understand this clearly, Captain Kim. The Council's patience has limits. If you refuse our generous offer, there will be consequences. Economic sanctions are merely the beginning. We have methods of encouraging cooperation." "That sounds like a threat," Ji-won said quietly. Vexthara's feathers ruffled with amusement. "Call it what you wish. The Council has dealt with stubborn species before. Some learned wisdom quickly. Others required more persuasive education. Choose which path Earth will take." Ji-won met Morduin's gaze directly. "I will deliver your message to President Yoon Ji-nam and the United Earth Government. But I should warn you, High Chancellor. Humanity has a long history of responding poorly to threats. The chamber fell silent. For a moment, Morduin simply stared at her. Then he threw back his head and made a sound like grinding stones. Laughter. Is that meant to frighten us, human? Your entire military could not defeat a single council enforcement fleet. Do not mistake our civility for weakness. I'm not making threats, Jiwan replied. I'm providing context. Throughout our history, whenever someone has tried to conquer or subjugate humanity, it has ended badly for them. We're a young species, yes, but we've survived ice ages, pandemics, world wars, and near extinction multiple times. We're still here. We're still standing. That should tell you something about us. Another counselor, a being that looked like flowing water contained in a transparent suit, spoke up. The past is irrelevant. This is not your primitive Earth. This is the galactic stage. Here you are nothing, a newcomer species with no allies, no territory, and no real power. Jiwan smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps we are nothing. But I would suggest that you not make assumptions about what humanity is capable of when pushed into a corner. History has a way of surprising those who ignore its lessons. Morduin waved a dismissive claw. 3 months, Captain Kim. Return with your answer. Accept our terms or face isolation and its consequences. This council is adjourned. The platform beneath Jiwan's feet began to descend. As it lowered her toward the exit, she caught sight of one counselor who had remained silent throughout the entire proceeding. A collective consciousness called Zin, represented by a cluster of floating crystalline nodes. As Jiwan passed, one node pulsed with what might have been concern or sympathy. Hyunwoo and Minji met Jiwan at the docking bay where their small diplomatic vessel waited. The moment the airlock sealed behind them, Jiwan's calm mask cracked. They're not interested in diplomacy, she said. This is conquest dressed up in pretty words. Hyunwoo nodded. I've already sent encrypted messages to Earth Command. President Nam needs to know what we're dealing with. Will she agree to their terms? Minji asked. Jiwan looked out the viewport as their ship pulled away from the massive council station. Behind them, the structure glittered like a jewel against the stars. It represented 10,000 years of civilization, of order, of peace maintained through force and exploitation. No, Jiwan said quietly. I know President Nam, she won't bend. Which means we're going to war. Against the entire Galactic Council? Minji's voice shook slightly. They have thousands of ships. They control hundreds of worlds. Hyunwoo moved to the pilot's chair and began programming their jump coordinates. They think they know everything about us. They think they've seen our full strength. That's their first mistake. What do you mean? Minji asked. The Admiral looked back at them, and for the first time since the meeting began, he smiled. We've been preparing for this possibility since the day we achieved faster-than-light travel. The Council is about to learn that humanity doesn't bluff, and we don't kneel. Their ship accelerated into the darkness, heading home toward Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, confident in its power, certain of its dominance. They had no idea what was coming. Part 2 Spymaster Kreval had served the Galactic Council for 40 years. The insectoid intelligence officer had uncovered plots, exposed traitors, and prevented 3 wars before they could begin. His compound eyes could process information faster than most species could think. His network of agents stretched across known space. But as he reviewed the data on humanity, something felt wrong. The numbers didn't add up. Kreval sat in his darkened office aboard the Council's intelligence ship. Holographic displays floated around him, showing ship manifests, resource reports, and communication intercepts. According to official records, Earth possessed 12 warships, 37 cargo vessels, and scattered mining operations throughout their solar system. But his agents reported seeing 40 ships leave Earth's orbit in a single week. Mining operations on Europa processed 3 times more material than the humans reported, and there were gaps in their communication traffic that suggested encrypted channels his best codebreakers couldn't crack. Computer, Kreval clicked. Show me all human ship movements over the past 5 years. The hologram shifted, showing hundreds of trajectories. Most went to predictable locations: Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons. But some paths ended at the edge of the solar system and simply stopped. Ships went out and never came back, according to the data. That was impossible. Ships didn't just vanish unless they were destroyed or deliberately hiding. Kreval's mandibles twitched with interest. He opened a secure channel to his best field agent, a shapeshifter named Vex who had infiltrated human society 2 years ago. Report, Kreval ordered. Vex's response came after a brief delay. The humans are hiding something. I've confirmed at least 3 shipyard facilities beyond Mars that don't appear in any official registry. They're classified as research stations, but I've observed military-grade power signatures. Can you get closer? Negative. Security is tighter than anything I've encountered. Biometric scans, quantum encryption, armed patrols with weapons that don't match their declared technology level. Kreval filed that information away. What about their military personnel? Any unusual training or deployment? That's the strange part. Most human military officers have combat experience. Real combat, not simulations. They fought each other for centuries before unifying. Every soldier I've observed treats war as something familiar, not theoretical. After ending the call, Kreval pulled up humanity's history files. The Council's sociologists had dismissed Earth's violent past as primitive barbarism. Species fought during their development, then matured into peaceful civilization. That was the normal pattern. But as Kreval read deeper, he began to understand what his colleagues had missed. Humanity hadn't outgrown violence. They had refined it. Their wars grew more sophisticated, more devastating, more strategic. They developed rules about warfare, then found ways to win while following those rules. They turned killing into an art form backed by science. And then, 30 years ago, they achieved faster-than-light travel, and suddenly all that warfare stopped. Unity came fast. Too fast. Unless they found a new enemy to prepare for. On Mars, Colonel Daehyun Choi watched the Council's spy satellite pass overhead. The orbital tracking station had picked it up 3 days ago. It was being careful, using passive sensors only, but human technology had advanced far beyond what Earth had shared with the Council. It's the 4th pass this week, Lieutenant Yunho Kang said, studying the data. They're definitely interested in the Olympus Mons facility. Daehyun smiled. Good, let them look. All they'll see is a civilian research base. What about the shipyards on Phobos? Still cloaked. The stealth fields are holding. As far as their sensors can tell, Phobos is just a boring moon. Yunho pulled up a tactical display showing the real Mars. Hidden beneath civilian infrastructure lay the largest military-industrial complex humanity had ever built. Shipyards carved into Phobos and Deimos churned out vessels designed for one purpose: war. Not the territorial skirmishes Earth had known, but real war against technologically advanced opponents. 300 warships sat in those hidden docks. Each one incorporated technology the Council didn't know humanity possessed. Quantum jump drives that could move through space-time itself. Gravitational weapons that could tear apart molecular bonds. Armor composed of programmed matter that could reconfigure itself mid-battle. And the Council thought Earth had 12 ships. How's Project Ghost coming along? Daehyun asked. Yunho grinned. Dr. Sora says we'll be ready for live testing next week. The phase shift technology works even better than simulated. A ship can literally exist in 2 quantum states simultaneously, making it impossible to target with conventional weapons. And the crews? We've been training in secret for 5 years. Every pilot knows this day might come. They're ready. Deep below the surface of Europa, beneath kilometers of ice and an ocean of dark water, Dr. Sorahan adjusted the settings on humanity's most dangerous creation. The laboratory had been built in absolute secrecy, disguised as a simple research outpost studying alien microbes. In reality, it was a weapons development facility. The device in front of Sora looked deceptively simple, a sphere of dark metal covered in equations that glowed with soft blue light. Inside, a miniature black hole spun at precisely controlled speeds, contained by magnetic fields strong enough to bend space-time. Gravitational lance test in 30 seconds, Sora announced to her team. The weapon powered up with a hum that felt more than heard. Reality itself seemed to shiver around it. Then, with a flash of light, it released a focused beam of gravitational force at a target 3 kilometers away through solid ice. The ice didn't melt or shatter. It simply ceased to exist along a perfectly straight line. The molecular bonds holding it together were torn apart at such a fundamental level that the atoms themselves flew apart. Perfect shot. One of the technicians breathed. No energy signature a conventional scanner could detect. It would look like natural phenomenon to anyone not specifically looking for gravitational distortion. Sora allowed herself a small smile. The Council thought humanity's weapons were primitive missiles and projectile accelerators. They had no idea what physics could do in the hands of a species desperate enough to weaponize the fundamental forces of the universe. Her communicator buzzed. Colonel Daehyun's voice crackled through. How soon can you produce 50 units? We have 30 already completed and tested. 20 more will be ready within 2 weeks. Good, we may need them sooner than expected. The council is starting to ask questions. Back on Earth, President Yoon Nam sat in her office deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. The Presidential Command Center had been built to survive nuclear war. Now it served as the headquarters for humanity's survival against a galactic threat. Admiral Hyun-woo Park stood before her desk, his uniform immaculate despite having arrived only hours ago from the council chambers. They want 70% of our resources, Yoonji said, reading through Jiwon's report, and effective control of our military. Yes, Madam President. It's not a negotiation, it's a demand. Yoonji set down the datapad. What are our realistic chances if we refuse? Hyunwoo pulled up a holographic display. If they knew our actual capabilities, we'd have a fighting chance, but they don't know. They think we're weak. That gives us tactical advantage. How many ships can we actually field? 317 warships fully crewed and armed. Another 80 in final construction phases, plus our stealth fleet, experimental weapons, and assets we've positioned throughout their territory. Yoonji's eyebrows rose. Assets in their territory? We've had people embedded in council space since first contact. Not spies exactly. Traders, settlers, researchers, but they're loyal to Earth, and they're in position to cause significant disruption if needed. That's incredibly risky. Yes, Madam President, but also necessary. We learned from history. Never fight a war unprepared. Never trust potential enemies to remain peaceful. Always have contingencies. Yoonji stood and walked to the wall display showing Earth from orbit. The blue marble looked peaceful, beautiful, and fragile. If we do this, thousands will die. Maybe millions. The Council has been around for 10,000 years. They have resources we can't match. True, but they've been at peace for most of that time. Their military is used to intimidating primitive species into submission. They're not used to facing an enemy that fights back with everything they have. We are. Because we've been fighting each other for our entire history. Exactly. Every tactical doctrine they have was developed against opponents who didn't understand modern warfare. We understand it intimately. We've spent centuries perfecting ways to kill each other. Now we can apply those lessons to new targets. Yoonji turned back to face him. Can we win? Hyunwoo met her gaze steadily. I don't know if we can win, but I guarantee we can make them regret threatening us. And maybe, just maybe, we can survive long enough to negotiate from a position of strength rather than submission. The president was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Prepare for war. Full mobilization, but do it quietly. I want every advantage we can get when this starts. And the council's deadline? We'll meet with them again. I'll deliver our answer personally. They should hear it from the leader of humanity, not a diplomat. What will you tell them? Part 3. The council chamber looked exactly as it had 3 months ago. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats, their attention focused on the center platform. But this time, President Yoon Nam stood where Captain Jiwon had stood before. The President of United Earth wore no military uniform, just a simple dark suit. Her silver hair was pulled back and her face showed the weight of decision. High Chancellor Morduan looked pleased with himself. President Nam, welcome. Have you come to accept the Council's generous terms? Yoonji's voice carried clearly through the chamber, translated instantly into dozens of languages. I have come to deliver humanity's answer to your ultimatum. Excellent. Then you understand the wisdom of, we refuse. The chamber fell silent. For several heartbeats no one spoke. Then chaos erupted. Aliens shouted in disbelief, anger, and some in what might have been fear. Morduan raised his clawed hand for silence, his yellow eyes narrowing dangerously. You refuse? Perhaps you misunderstood the consequences of such foolishness. I understood perfectly, Yoonji replied calmly. You demand 70% of our resources. You demand control of our military. You demand we surrender our sovereignty and become subjects rather than equals. My answer is no. Earth will not submit to extortion. Counselor Vexithera's feathers bristled with rage. Then you condemn your people to isolation and suffering. No trade, no protection, no access to civilized space. If that's the price of freedom, we'll pay it gladly. Morduan leaned forward on his throne. You are making a grave mistake, President. The Council has methods of encouraging cooperation. Economic sanctions are only the beginning. We can make your little world suffer in ways you cannot imagine. Yunji met his gaze without flinching. And you are making a grave mistake, Chancellor, by threatening humanity. Throughout our history, we have one consistent response to bullies. We fight back. Every empire that tried to conquer us learned this lesson. Every tyrant who thought we would submit discovered they were wrong. Most of them are dust now. Brave words from a weak species, another counselor called out. Your entire military consists of a handful of primitive vessels. One council enforcement fleet could sweep them aside without effort. A cold smile touched Yunji's lips. Is that what you think? That we're defenseless? We know your capabilities, Morduin said. Our intelligence is thorough. 12 warships, outdated technology, limited resources. You have nothing that could threaten the Council. Your intelligence is incomplete. The chamber went quiet again. This time the silence felt different, heavier with sudden uncertainty. Yunji continued, her voice steady and clear. You assumed we would share everything about ourselves. You assumed we were too primitive to understand the galactic stage. You assumed wrong on both counts. Humanity has been preparing for this possibility since the day we achieved faster-than-light travel. Preparing for what? Vexthera demanded. For the day we met someone like you. Someone who saw us as prey rather than partners. Someone who mistook youth for weakness. Morduin's tail lashed behind him. Empty threats. You have nothing that could challenge us. Then test that theory, Yunji said softly. Send your enforcement fleet to Earth. Try to take what you believe is yours. But understand this, Chancellor. If you start this fight, we will finish it. And when we do, the galaxy will know that humanity does not bluff and we do not kneel. This is madness, another counselor shouted. One species against the might of the entire council? Yes, Yunji agreed. It probably is madness, but we're human. Madness is something we're good at. The crystalline entity Zin pulsed with light, speaking for the first time. Its voice resonated like bells. President Nam, I urge reconsideration. War serves no one. Surely compromise is possible. Yunji's expression softened slightly. I appreciate that, Counselor Zin. But compromise requires good faith on both sides. You're not asking for compromise. You're demanding surrender. That's something humanity will never accept. Morduin rose to his full height, towering above his throne. Very well. If you insist on this foolish path, the Council will respond accordingly. I hereby authorize the deployment of the 3rd Enforcement Fleet to the Sol system. They will blockade your world and force compliance. You have 1 week to reconsider before they arrive. They're welcome to try, Yunji said. But I should warn you, Chancellor. The fleet you send won't be coming back. Is that a threat? It's a fact. You want war? You'll get it. But don't say humanity didn't warn you. Yunji's platform began to descend. As it lowered, she looked up at the thousands of aliens watching her. Some looked angry, some confused, and some looked thoughtful. The crystalline Zin pulsed with colors that might have been sadness. Admiral Hyunwoo waited at the docking bay with Jiwon and Minji. The moment Yunji's ship sealed its airlock, the Admiral activated communication jamming. No one could overhear what came next. It's done, Yunji said, her calm mask cracking slightly. They're sending the fleet. The 3rd Enforcement? Hyunwoo asked. That's 300 ships. Can we handle that many? Yes, Madam President, but it won't be easy and we'll take losses. Jiwon checked her tactical display. The 3rd Enforcement is one of their veteran fleets. They've been together for centuries. But they're used to fighting pirates and raiders, not organized military forces. That's our advantage, Hyunwoo agreed. They think in terms of overwhelming force against scattered opponents. They're not prepared for coordinated defense. Their ship accelerated away from the Council station. Behind them, the massive structure began launching communications drones, spreading word of humanity's defiance across the galaxy. But Earth had been busy during those 3 months too. On Mars, Colonel Daehyun received the coded signal and smiled grimly. Alert all stations. Operation Thunderbreak is active. We are go for Phase 1 deployment. Across the solar system, hidden facilities began revealing themselves. Camouflaged shipyards dropped their stealth fields. Ships that had been dark and silent for years powered up their engines. Weapons platforms that looked like asteroids activated their targeting systems. Lieutenant Yunho climbed into the cockpit of his stealth fighter. Around him, 49 other pilots did the same. These weren't the clunky vessels the Council had seen in intelligence reports. These were sleek predators built with technology humanity had kept secret. "Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Leader," Yunho transmitted. "Systems check. One by one, his pilots confirmed readiness. Quantum jump drives operational. Phase shift generators operational. Gravitational lances armed and ready. Remember your training," Yunho continued. "The Council has never faced stealth craft that can phase through solid matter. Use that. Hit them where they think they're safe. Target command ships first. Break their coordination, and we break their fleet." On Europa, Dr. Sora supervised the loading of gravitational weapons onto transport vessels. 50 completed units, each capable of tearing apart a warship from the inside out. The Council's shields were designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles. They had no defense against weapons that manipulated gravity itself. "Doctor," one of her technicians called out, "we're receiving reports that Council intelligence knew about this facility." Sora nodded. "Of course they did. We let them know. But they saw what we wanted them to see, a research outpost studying microbes. They never looked deep enough to find the real laboratories, so we fed them false intelligence. We gave them accurate intelligence that led to false conclusions. The best kind of misdirection. Earth itself had become an armed fortress. Orbital defense platforms that appeared to be communication satellites revealed hidden weapons. The moon's far side held missile silos that could launch warheads capable of tracking targets across light years. Even civilian vessels had been retrofitted with military-grade systems, ready to fight if needed. President Yunji's ship entered Earth's atmosphere and descended toward the Atlantic Command Center. As she watched her homeworld through the viewport, she felt the weight of her decision settle on her shoulders. "How many will die?" she asked quietly. Hyunwoo stood beside her. "Impossible to predict, but many on both sides. War always takes a toll. Was there another way? Would you have accepted their terms? 70% of our resources? Effective slavery? No," Yunji admitted. "I just wish peace had been possible. It was possible. They chose war when they decided to threaten us instead of treating us as equals." Minji looked up from her datapad. "President Nam, I've been analyzing Council history. Did you know they've done this before? At least 7 other species were coerced into membership under similar terms. Those species are now effectively servants, providing resources while the dominant Council races grow fat and comfortable." "So this is their business model," Jiwon said. "Find young species, threaten them into submission, exploit their resources." "Exactly. And it's worked for thousands of years because no one ever fought back. They either didn't have the strength or didn't have the courage." Yunji stood straighter. "Then it's time someone taught them that not every species will roll over. Humanity has survived too much to surrender now." The ship landed and they made their way to the command center. Inside, dozens of officers worked at holographic displays, coordinating the defense of human space. Every ship was being moved into position. Part 4. The 3rd Enforcement Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly on schedule. 300 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with polished armor and glowing shields. Each vessel stretched half a kilometer long, bristling with weapons that had kept galactic peace for centuries. Fleet Admiral Vormak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. The 4-armed amphibious commander had led this fleet for 60 years. He had broken pirate strongholds, crushed rebel uprisings, and intimidated dozens of primitive worlds into submission. "This mission should be simple. Scan the system," he ordered. "Locate all human vessels." His sensor officer worked the controls. "Sir, detecting significant ship presence around the 3rd planet. Approximately 300 contacts." Vormak's eyes narrowed. 300? Our intelligence reported 12. "Yes, sir. The readings are clear. They have a full battle fleet positioned in defensive formation." "Impressive deception," Vormak admitted, "but ultimately meaningless. They cannot match our firepower." Open communications. On every human vessel, the same message appeared. Admiral Hyunwoo Park listened to Vormak's translated words from his command ship, the Indomitable. "Human forces. This is Fleet Admiral Vormak of the Galactic Council's 3rd Enforcement Fleet. You are ordered to stand down immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to receive Council peacekeepers. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. You have 30 minutes to comply." Hyunwoo looked around his bridge. Jiwon stood at the tactical station. Colonel Daehyun monitored the stealth assets. Lieutenant Yunho waited in his fighter ready to launch. Dr. Sora's gravitational weapons were armed and targeted. "Open a channel," Hyunwoo ordered. Vormak's image appeared on the display. The alien commander looked confident, almost bored. "I am Admiral Hyunwoo Park, commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Your fleet is not welcome in our system. You have 30 minutes to leave peacefully. After that, we will consider you hostile invaders and respond accordingly." Vormak actually laughed. "You cannot be serious. You face the might of the Galactic Council. Surrender now, or we will destroy every ship you possess." "You're welcome to try," Hyunwoo said calmly. "But I should warn you, Admiral. We are not like the other species you've bullied into submission. We are human, and humans fight. Then you choose death. Do not say you were not warned." The communication cut off. Vormak turned to his weapons officer. "Target their ships. Disable propulsion and weapon systems. We want them intact for interrogation." "Yes, sir." Targeting solutions locked. "Fire." Energy beams lanced across the void, precisely aimed at human vessels. For a moment it looked like a normal engagement. Then the humans did something unexpected. They fired back. But not with the primitive kinetic weapons the Council expected. Gravitational lances stabbed through space, invisible to conventional sensors. They passed through the Council ship's shields as if they weren't there, because those shields were designed to stop energy and matter, not gravitational force. The first Council warship shuddered as its molecular bonds began tearing apart from the inside. Metal screamed. Bulkheads collapsed. Within seconds, the ship broke apart into pieces. "What was that?" Vormak demanded. "Report. Unknown weapon type? Shields had no effect. We're detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the fleet. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire." The Council fleet began moving, their formations breaking as ships tried to avoid the strange weapons. They fired back with massive energy cannons, and several human ships took direct hits. But while the Council weapons damaged armor and systems, the human gravitational lances destroyed ships completely. "Launch Ghost Squadron," Hyunwoo ordered. 50 stealth fighters phased into existence in the middle of the Council formation. They had been there all along, invisible, waiting. Lieutenant Yunho led his pilots through the confused enemy fleet, targeting command ships. The stealth fighters used their phase shift technology to devastating effect. They would materialize, fire their weapons, then shift back into quantum uncertainty before return fire could hit them. To the Council forces, it looked like weapons fire appearing from nowhere. "Sir, we're taking heavy casualties," Vormak's tactical officer reported. 15 ships destroyed, 30 more damaged. "These fighters, we can't target them. Use area weapons." "Saturation fire!" The Council ships began firing in all directions, trying to hit the phasing fighters through sheer volume of fire. Some shots connected and several human fighters exploded, but for every fighter destroyed, the stealth craft took down 3 Council vessels. Captain Seojin Ryu commanded the experimental warship Indomitable, Admiral Hyunwoo's flagship. Unlike the other human vessels, the Indomitable was built with technology even the Council's most advanced ships couldn't match. Inertial dampening that allowed impossible maneuvers. "Take us into the heart of their formation," Seojin ordered. "Sir, that's suicide. Trust the technology, execute." The Indomitable accelerated at speeds that should have crushed its crew, but the inertial dampeners worked perfectly, allowing the ship to twist and spin like a fighter while maintaining the mass of a battleship. Council weapons tried to track it but couldn't match its movements. As the Indomitable dove through the Council formation, it fired gravitational lances in all directions. Ships exploded around it. Confusion spread through the enemy fleet as their largest vessels were destroyed by a single human warship that moved like it was alive. Aboard the Eternal Glory, Vormak watched his fleet being torn apart. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans should have been helpless, their primitive technology no match for Council superiority. "All ships concentrate fire on that warship. I want it destroyed now." 50 Council vessels turned their weapons on the Indomitable. Energy beams converged from all directions. For a moment it looked like the human ship would be vaporized. Then it phased. The Indomitable used Ghost Squadron's phase shift technology, something no ship that size should be able to do. The energy beams passed harmlessly through where it had been. The ship reappeared behind the Council formation, completely unharmed. "That's impossible," Vormak whispered. "Sir, we need to withdraw. We've lost 40% of the fleet." "No, we are the Council." "We do not retreat from primitives. But the battle was already lost. Human ships moved with precision and coordination the Council fleet couldn't match. Every human captain knew their role. Every weapons officer had trained for this exact scenario. They fought like a single organism, covering each other's weaknesses, exploiting every opening. The Council ships fought as individuals, each captain trying to prove their worth, none working together effectively. It was the difference between a trained military and a collection of peacekeepers who had never faced a real war. Dr. Minji Lee watched the battle from Earth's orbital command center. Her role was psychological warfare, and now she activated her part of the operation. "Broadcast on all Council frequencies," she ordered. Every Council ship received the transmission simultaneously. It showed Earth's history, wars, conflicts, struggles for survival. It showed humans fighting each other with increasing sophistication over thousands of years. It showed the development of weapons, tactics, and strategies refined through constant warfare. The message was clear. You picked a fight with a species that has been at war for its entire existence. We know violence in ways you can't understand. You've had peace for 10,000 years. We've had it for 30. Which of us do you think is better at this? The psychological impact was devastating. Council crews realized they weren't fighting primitives. They were fighting predators who had turned warfare into science. "Sir, multiple ships requesting permission to withdraw," Vormak's communication officer reported. "Denied. Stand and fight!" But it was too late. The Third Enforcement Fleet's morale was breaking. Ships began jumping away without permission, fleeing back toward Council space. Others surrendered, broadcasting ceasefire requests that the humans actually honored. Within 4 hours of entering the Sol system, the mighty Third Enforcement Fleet was broken. Half the ships were destroyed. Most of the rest had fled. Only a handful remained, including Vormak's flagship, surrounded by human vessels. Admiral Hyunwoo's face appeared on Vormak's screen. The human looked tired but determined. "Fleet Admiral Vormak, this battle is over. Surrender your remaining ships and we will treat your survivors with respect. The Council will send another fleet," Vormak said bitterly. "And another. We have hundreds of fleets. Then they'll all meet the same fate." "We told you, Admiral. Humanity doesn't bluff. You came here expecting easy prey. Instead, you found warriors who have been preparing for this fight since before your species achieved spaceflight. Your trick weapons won't save you forever. We'll adapt, perhaps. But while you're adapting, we'll be evolving. That's what we do. We survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that nearly destroyed us. We rebuilt every time. We learned every time. We got stronger every time. Can the Council say the same?" Vormak was silent. "Here's what happens next," Hyunwoo continued. "You will return to the Council and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them humanity fought back and won. Tell them we have weapons they can't defend against and tactics they're not prepared for. Tell them we are not prey. They won't believe me." Part 5. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. The Grand Chamber that had once been filled with confident voices now held only tension and fear. High Chancellor Morduin looked older, his scales duller than before. The war had not gone as planned. The Council had sent 7 more fleets to human space. All 7 had been destroyed or forced to retreat. Human ships seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating weapons, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Their stealth technology made conventional tactics useless. Their gravitational weapons passed through every defense the Council possessed. But the real damage wasn't happening in space. It was happening throughout Council territory. Councillor Vexithara stood before the assembly, her purple feathers ruffled with stress. 3 more supply convoys were destroyed this week. Human strike teams hit our manufacturing centers on 4 different worlds. Our communication networks are compromised. We cannot even trust our own systems anymore. "How many casualties?" another councillor asked. "Military losses exceed 100,000. Civilian casualties are minimal. The humans are targeting infrastructure, not populations." "Small comfort," Morduin growled. "They are tearing apart everything we built." The crystalline entity Zin pulsed with soft light. "Perhaps that is the point. They are showing us they could slaughter civilians, but choose not to. It is psychological warfare. They want us to realize that continued conflict serves no purpose. They want us to surrender." "No," Zin replied. "They want us to negotiate. There is a difference." On Earth, President Yoonji Nam sat in conference with her military advisors. Admiral Hyunwoo looked exhausted but satisfied. Captain Ji-won reviewed casualty reports with sadness in her eyes. Colonel Dae-hyun monitored ongoing operations across the galaxy. The Council has requested a meeting, Yoon-ji said. Not an ultimatum this time. An actual negotiation? It could be a trap, Dae-hyun warned. Possibly, but we've made our point. They know they can't beat us militarily. At least not without losses they're unwilling to accept. Now comes the harder part, building peace. After everything they've done, Ji-won asked. After they tried to enslave us? Yes, because the alternative is generations of war. We can keep fighting, keep destroying, keep killing, or we can try to build something better. Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. The Council needs to be restructured. Their entire system is built on exploitation and intimidation. That can't continue. Agreed. Which is why our terms will be significant. But we also need to remember that most Council species are victims too. They were coerced just like the Council tried to coerce us. Our enemy isn't the people of those worlds. It's the corrupt system their leaders created. Dr. Minji Lee entered the room carrying several data pads. I've completed my analysis of the other Council member species. At least 23 were essentially forced into membership under threat of military action. Their resources have been drained for centuries while the dominant species grew wealthy. So we're not just fighting for Earth, Yoon-ji said. We're fighting for all of them. 2 weeks later, a neutral space station was selected for peace negotiations. The humans insisted it not be the Council's main chamber, where they would be surrounded by hostile forces. Instead, they chose an old trading post on the edge of civilized space, neutral ground controlled by an independent merchant guild. Ambassador Ji-won Kim led the human delegation. She was accompanied by Admiral Hyunwoo, Dr. Minji, and surprisingly, Lieutenant Yunho Kang. The young pilot had become something of a hero after his stealth squadron's success. The Council sent Mordwin, Vexthera Zin, and Spymaster Kreval. The old intelligence officer had proven to be one of the few Council members willing to acknowledge reality rather than comfortable lies. The meeting room was simple. A round table, chairs adjusted for different body types, and observation windows showing the stars beyond. No throne for Mordwin this time. No platform to elevate anyone above anyone else. Ji-won sat across from Mordwin. The ancient reptilian looked at her with something that might have been respect or resentment. She couldn't tell which. You have cost us greatly. Human, Mordwin began. You started a war you couldn't win, Ji-won replied calmly. The cost of that is on you, not us. We are prepared to discuss peace terms. What do you want? Territory? Resources? Reparations? None of those things. Mordwin's eyes narrowed in confusion. Then what? Ji-won pulled up a holographic display. We want the Council restructured. The current system allows powerful species to exploit weaker ones. That ends. Every member species gets equal representation regardless of their military strength or territory. Impossible. The Council has operated this way for 10,000 years. And for 10,000 years you've been building resentment among species who had no choice but to submit. We're giving them that choice now. Vexithera's feathers bristled. You have no authority to dictate Council policy. We have the authority of force, Admiral Hyunwoo said quietly. We proved we can destroy your fleets and disrupt your territory at will. But we'd prefer not to continue doing that. So we're offering an alternative. Kreval leaned forward. What alternative? Dr. Minji activated another display. The Galactic Union of Free Species, a new organization based on voluntary membership, equal representation, and mutual defense. No forced resource contributions. No subjugation. No exploitation. You want to replace the Council entirely, Zin observed, its crystalline structure pulsing with what might have been interest. Yes, Yoonji's voice came through the speaker from Earth. The Council model is broken. It was built on dominance and has perpetuated injustice for millennia. Time for something better. And if we refuse? Mordwin asked. Then we continue the war, Hyunwoo said. But this time we won't just target military assets. We'll start helping every oppressed species in Council space achieve independence. We'll provide weapons, training, and support to anyone who wants freedom. Within a year, your empire will collapse into civil war. The silence that followed was heavy. Mordwin looked around at his fellow counselors. Vexithara looked angry but said nothing. Zin pulsed thoughtfully. Kreval's antennae twitched with what might have been approval. You are asking us to dismantle everything we built, Mordwin said. We're asking you to build something better, G1 replied. The council brought order to the galaxy. That's worth acknowledging, but order built on fear and exploitation isn't peace. It's just delayed conflict. We've given you a demonstration of what happens when the oppressed finally fight back. Learn from it. Krevel spoke up. High Chancellor, I have reviewed the data extensively. The humans are correct. Our intelligence shows growing unrest among 17 member species. If we continue the current system, rebellions are inevitable. Better to reform now while we can control the process than wait until revolution forces change upon us. You would side with the humans? Vexthara accused. I side with reality. The humans have shown they can fight and win. They have also shown they prefer not to slaughter civilians when military targets achieve their goals. That demonstrates restraint our own forces often lack. Perhaps we should learn from that. The negotiations continued for 3 weeks. The terms were argued, refined, and argued again. The council tried to maintain some of their advantages. The humans refused to compromise on core principles. Finally, a framework emerged. The Galactic Union of Free Species would replace the council. All current members could choose to join voluntarily or pursue independence. A new charter would be written guaranteeing rights and protections for all species. Military forces would be reorganized into a true peacekeeping coalition, rather than enforcement fleets designed to intimidate. And humanity would serve as guardians, not rulers, not conquerors, but defenders who would ensure no species could again exploit others through force. Why would you accept that role? Morduin asked during the final session. You have proven your strength. You could dominate us all, G1 smiled. Because we learned something you forgot, Chancellor. Power without purpose is just violence. We fought to be free, not to enslave others. Being guardians means ensuring everyone else stays free too. A noble sentiment. I wonder if you'll maintain it when you have the opportunity for empire. We already had that opportunity on Earth. We built empires, conquered neighbors, and enslaved entire populations. You know what we learned? It always falls apart. The oppressed always rise up eventually. True peace comes from cooperation, not domination. 6 months after the negotiations began, the new Galactic Union of Free Species held its first session. The former council chamber was reconfigured. The throne was removed. The elevated seats were lowered so everyone met at the same level. President Yunji Nam attended as Earth's representative. She stood before the assembled species and spoke. For 10,000 years you were told that peace required submission, that order required hierarchy, that safety required surrendering freedom. You were lied to. Real peace comes from mutual respect. Real order comes from justice. Real safety comes from the knowledge that no one can threaten you without facing consequences. She looked around the chamber. Hundreds of species watched her, some still suspicious, others hopeful. Humanity almost destroyed itself countless times.